the Never Lose a Deal podcast. As always, this podcast is geared for real estate investors who are looking for creative ways to fund their real estate deals or investments. And that is why I'm so excited to talk about today's topic. As I film this video, or maybe you're listening at one of the podcasting platforms, it is March of 2024. We have now embarked into the third month of the first quarter. And so I wanted to do a series of conversations and videos about the topic of another form of business funding, which is private capital. And the reason why I wanted to talk about it is because back in the early part of 2024, I talked about my um, me being able to expand on the topic of business funding, because pretty much we're in a time and a place, especially here online, where the conversation is really only geared for business credit cards. And so the narrative behind business funding, as well as when you pair it with real estate, is that many people think that it is they go together. And if you have any experience in the industry of business funding, outside of the sound bites that are on the internet, you will know that business funding consists of many areas of the funding spectrum. It's not just credit cards. Credit cards is just one tier of business funding. Part of my framework of what I talk about, it's literally it's the bottom. It's really the bottom. It's the floor. It's not the ceiling. But depending on the experience level, and I talked about that in my last podcast. I talked about the context to a lot of content. Once again, many people will think that that's it, that you have hit the ceiling. I don't care if you got American, a platinum, if you got a Chase Sapphire, they think that that is now you have reached the pinnacle. But of course, for individuals who are experienced, that that's just brushing the surface, And so with saying that, wanted to go more deeper and expand much bigger in this topic of business funding, primarily private capital. Part of the framework that I teach is the business funding capital stack. And there are different tiers of the business funding capital stack, starting off with business credit, and then you elevate up to private capital. And so private capital is the area that I would think that any experienced real estate investor would want to work towards, because you are literally writing your own ticket. You're not dealing with, as much as I talk about partnering with the banks, and I want to talk about that today. You're no longer dealing with all the bureaucracy of the banks. And I don't think nothing is wrong with that. I'm a big advocate of partnering with the banks, because some of my best clients who I have helped to obtain private capital had great relationships with banks. So understand, I'm never going to be anti-bank. I'm never going to be the person who is trying to sell people on how can we scam the banks, because when you have a proper relationship with a banking institution, that gives you more leverage when it comes to private capital. And that is what I'm going to talk about today. So the reason why it gives you more leverage, because this video is, even though I titled it private capital versus business funding, it is not a matter of which one is better. It is a matter of where are you in your journey of investing in real estate, and being able to leverage different forms of funding. Many videos and many podcasts before this, I talked about financial stewardship. Stewardship is an important factor when it comes to private capital. The reason why many people are not able to either obtain private capital or not even clear on how they can even enter the realm of it is because a lot of times they have never been a good steward of their own money. That can even be money of their own liquid finances or the funding that they may have gotten from any source, whether it's a credit card, whether it's a credit union, whether it is a bank. And now they want to now be able to jump into the realm of going into private capital where once again it's a relationship. That is why I'm a big advocate of, if you have did a great job with building a a relationship with any lending institution, you are a great candidate for private capital. Because the reason why I make that statement is because 9 times out of 10, and I have rarely seen this unless a person just really got over leveraged with what they were able to obtain. And I've seen that. I've seen where people have gotten a lot of funding from some institution or for a hard money lender or from with credit cards, and they got a little above their head and they weren't able to make um their obligations. But before I go into what I want to say, I do want to make a disclaimer. When I talk about private capital, I'm not talking about hard money lenders. So let's make that clear, because a lot of people in the real estate space kind of use those words interchangeably. So you will hear people say private capital and they're really talking about hard money. And so let me be very clear. I'm not talking about hard money. When I talk about private capital, I'm talking about, now remember, there are different forms of private capital. I like to say you have private capital that can be warm people that people that literally you may have did business with in real estate. Maybe you have another business entity you may have did business with. They can even be family or friends. They can even be business professionals. Those are warm contacts that you can now be able to discuss what you have and what you are doing in real estate for them to fund your real estate deals. Then from warm, you have cold. These are individuals. A lot of times, these individuals have access to forms of funding. They may have liquid money, they may have retirement money, they may have money sitting in a business bank account. They just have the liquid means to be able to fund your deals. But the thing is that those individuals are cold, meaning you don't know them, they don't know you. And so now you have to be able to build a relationship with them, to be able to even introduce the concept of them being able to fund your deals. That is why I said, have you been a good financial steward of what you've been able to handle up until this point? Because remember, I said with the business funding capital stack, the lowest level is business credit cards, is not the ceiling. I know a lot of people think, oh, that's the ceiling. I'm just trying to get to that Platinum American Express. And by all means, if that is the case, nothing is wrong with that. But for those who follow my model, you have gotten credit cards. You have been a good steward of them. You have gotten some large funding approvals. And now you are able to leverage that money to invest in real estate, and you have some type of experience. You have some idea of when you use this money, what type of yield did you get on that money? I'm going to hope that you've been doing that. I just hope you're just not shooting in the dark, but you have some idea of the yield that you have been able to create for yourself on the money that you have leveraged. And then you want to be able to elevate up the business funding capital stack, as I like to say, the stair step. So as you get to the private capital, that's what you're going to be able to do. One of the biggest roadblocks of why people think that private capital is hard to obtain, whether it's the warm contacts that you know or ice cold contacts, is that they think it is your ask. They think it is your ability to ask for the money. And that is not the reason why many people hit a roadblock. The reason why many people hit a roadblock when it comes to getting access to private capital is because they cannot communicate what's in it for the private investor. Remember, when I talk about private capital, we're not talking about hard money lenders. We're talking about individuals who have liquid money that they have access to, whether it's in their personal checking account, whether it's in a retirement account, whether it's in a business bank account. They have access to liquid resources that will allow them to fund your deals. But what happens is that the reason why they hit a roadblock is they're unable to communicate what's in it for the private investor. That's why when it comes to private capital, I do not work with individuals. I have a criteria. I do not work with individuals who do not have any track record. The reason why is because they haven't even used their own money. They never leveraged their own money. They've never even leveraged money that they were able to obtain for themselves or for their business. And so what happens is when you have never leveraged anyone's money, now you really don't have any track record of any type of real estate deals that you may have did. It's very rare that a person who's leveraged no money for some way or the other, they're able to understand the numbers when it comes to a real estate deal. And even when it comes to business funding, I've always told prospects, even clients of mine, your ability to communicate, whether it's to a lender, whether it's to a person who is willing to be your private capital partner, is your ability to understand the numbers and communicate the numbers to the other party that allows them to understand, okay, this is what's in it for them. Most people come from a place, whether it's being able to obtain business funding outside of credit cards, because that's just an application. But when it comes to business funding, meaning dealing with banks, dealing with credit unions, as well as with private capital, they're unable to communicate what's in it for the person that you're looking to get funding for. Many people come from the standpoint of lack. I need, I need, I need. I need, I need, I need. And anybody, whether it's so funny. I don't know. They say it, the actor Bob Hope. I don't want to age myself, but years ago there used to be this old actor named Bob Hope, and there's a quote that says that the bank, apparently, I don't know if he's the one who made it, but I've seen it online, and they said the bank is the place that you don't go to when you need money. And that is so true. I've even seen that with business funding. People who need money, they never successfully get it. Why? Because desperation has a stint to it. Many people come from a space and a place of scarcity as well as desperation when they're trying to get money. I've even seen it being done when it comes to, getting business credit. That is why, don't want to get off topic. That is why so many people are able to, they gravitate to very desperate measures that would pretty much be on the borderline or is fraud because they are so desperate for it. They just got to have it. They believe that this actual abundant source, which is funding and capital and whatever you want to call it, money, they think that it's a scarce commodity. There's only a few winners who are going to get access to this abundant source. They really believe that. That is why now more than ever, with the doom and gloom going on, you're going to mark my word, and I've said this a year ago with the funding space and the real estate space, but primarily with the real estate space, depending on your age, and of course, I'm a woman of a certain age. I'm 50, and so for some people who are young, they've never went through a recession. The last real recession we had was after the bank failures in 2007. During that time, I was in my 30s. And I was an entrepreneur. I was in business for myself. And I, I always tell people that it was during that time when most people was running away from real estate and they were taking their losses. I ran towards it because I was able to see an opportunity. Not that I was this, genius and a Nostradamus person, but I was listening to people who said this was a great opportunity. And they had a roadmap to be able to show myself as well as a whole bunch of other people the way to get there. And so I was able to do that with real estate, and so I did a lot of my first deals in 2008. I don't have the proof to show you, but if you have heard my story before, I've shared with people that that was my first entryway into real estate. I tell people I can show receipts. I can literally go right on the public records website here in New Jersey, and I will show you. I was so new to it that many of those real estate deals were done in my name. I didn't even have an LLC. They were done in my name. So that just shows the track record of I'm not just telling a story. So I didn't just start doing this stuff during the pandemic. Like, oh, it's the pandemic, everybody's home. Let me regurgitate what I've heard, hundreds of other, of what 100 other people said on YouTube. No, I've been doing this. But I make this point to say, well, people was running away. I was running towards it, and there were great opportunities. And now they're predicting that we are in a recession, but it's not an official recession. And of course, I'm no economist. I know it's based on the GDP and all these other factors, but they say we're not in an official recession. But they say we are leading into one due to the cycles of the market and things that is going on. With that being the case, you're going to see many of the talking heads who are online talking about all the abundant resources with real estate. If you remember in 2020, when everybody was home and there was a worldwide pandemic, everybody was winning in real estate. Everybody was an Airbnb or a short-term rental expert. Everybody was winning in multi-families. Everybody was fixing and flipping. And a lot of that conversation has been quieted. Right now, mark my word, a lot of opportunities are going to be coming up the pipeline. Are you going to be able to take advantage? Hence, going back to what I said, many people now have never, a lot of the talking heads during the recession never went through one. So this is going to be their first recession. Let's see how many of them still be around. Let's see. So that's why my goal is to give you context to the content that I'm sharing with you, because as I talk more about this topic of private capital, being able to tap into private capital resources, people are still investing. There are deals all around us. It's sad to say, but someone's economic shortfall, sad to say that, is going to be another person's opportunity. And my question to you is, are you going to continue having the conversation of, I don't have the financial means? That's why I'm a very strong advocate of watch your words, watch what you say, because when so many people during the very lush times and during the pandemic, you had talking heads talking about robbing the banks and doing this to the banks. A lot of those people, their conversations have changed. And so you are what you speak. And as corny as that sounds, but it's true. You are what you speak. So if your focus is on trying to rob the bank, it's going to be very hard to be able to prosper when the banks start buckling down, when you're no longer able to rob the bank. That is why, for those who are interested and those who understand the importance of financial stewardship and the opportunities that will come down the pipeline, now is the time for you to expand your knowledge base when it comes to other alternative funding opportunities. That's why, many of my clients, the ones that I work with, but for those who don't know, my conversation when it comes to business funding and leveraging it for real estate has never just been about credit cards. That's why you have people who are literally doing glorified credit repair and they're calling it business funding. And of course, for the audience person who don't know, they think that's business funding. They think it is rebuilding your credit to get a business credit card, and it is not. Business funding has been around longer than me. It's been around longer than many of these talking heads. And if you talk to anyone who is in the lending space, when it comes to alternative financing, I'm not talking about traditional bank financing, but when it comes to alternative financing, that's things outside of the traditional bank, you will find out that it is made up of a combination of many things, a lot of things that I don't even work in the realm of. There are areas of business funding and alternative financing space that that's just not my cup of tea. I'm not interested in financing those industries. But I say all that to say, buckle up, because we are in, as I started this conversation, we're in the third month of the first quarter. And now is the time to tap into a lot of the information that I'm going to share with you. Now, I'm going to warn you, it's not for the newbie. It is not for the person who is looking for money. It's not for you. I hate to say that. There's somebody online who is teaching you how to rebuild your credit and get your first credit card. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there. It is for the real estate investor who has been who's been successful in being able to get some form of funding, and have turned that funding into a portfolio where they now have a track record in what they are able to do. And now they're looking to leverage another source of funds. And I want to be the person that can share with you some ideas, whether you want to look for them yourself, or like I said, they can be right in your backyard. Many of them are going to be current relationships that you have, but all you have to do is be able to communicate the value of how that can benefit the person who will be lending to you. And that's the missing piece when it comes to private capital. It is your ability to communicate what's in it for them, because most people do it the other way around. They're talking about how it's going to help them. So once again, this is Lorillia. If you like what you have heard today, leave me your comments. As I mentioned, streaming on YouTube, but also it's being broadcast on the different podcasting platforms. So please rate, and what is it, subscribe or whatever. I'll get it. I'll get it down packed. I'll get it down packed one day. But anyway, but you could always go to www.neverloseadeal.com, where I will be diving deep more into the private capital conversation, more about how it can be leveraged for real estate and the opportunities that you want to be able to position yourself so you can win in these next couple of years. Because like I said, there are going to be many people who are going to fall to the wayside, but you do not want to be one of them. Because like I said, an investor is an investor is an investor is an investor, meaning if they've invested before, they are continuing investing. And that's the same way with private capital. I'm not talking hard money, but a private capital investor is always lending money because they want their money to continue to grow. And like I said, talk more about it in the next episode. Just want to give you a taste of what's in store, and I will talk to you in my next one. Okay, bye-bye.